Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and it's time to mull over Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. For those who don't know, mulling over is a series that I do for first impressions and overall thoughts about a game or a particular topic. And I kind of realized earlier today that I actually haven't done this type of video for Final Fantasy XIV yet, so let's talk about it. Let's have a chat about Final Fantasy XIV, its state, and overall what I like about Final Fantasy XIV. I think it's been no real secret that if you've been following community reception to a lot of Dawntrail, there's been a good amount of negativity, and I think a lot of that is deserved when it concerns the storytelling and the MSQ and all that, or a certain job design, and I have covered quite extensively my own critiques about Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, but there's quite a few elements of the game that I still really love and appreciate that I still think holds true in Dawntrail. And we're kind of in this awkward middle part of the 0.0 cycle for Final Fantasy XIV expansions. Like, Savage has come and gone, it's out, it's in the wild, people are farming it, but we're also before the 0.1 patch. So we're before the game really transitions into its patch cadence and its patch cycle, introducing content that was advertised for the expansion, and we're in this period of time, this chunk of the game, where there's nothing particularly that new concerning the mechanics of the game or concerning new systems and stuff like that. And a lot of that was advertised for the expansion is going to come down the line in the patches. Things like variant dungeons, deep dungeons, ultimates, alliance raids, the new Bozja, cosmic exploration, that is not in the game yet, and that is a lot of content that we just simply don't have access to that was advertised for Dawntrail. Now, a lot of you out there may be pointing out, rightfully so, that Jmulls, this is pretty much what Final Fantasy XIV does. And for better or for worse, that's kind of the epitome of Final Fantasy XIV, where if you know the cadence, you know the cycle, you know the procedure, you know the rhythm, nothing ever really comes as a surprise. And I think what this actually does and fosters is this interesting dichotomy, to where when the game comes out, you have plenty of time to take the MSQ at your own pace and at your own speed. I kind of played through it rather quickly because I'm streaming it and I don't want to be inundated with spoilers and all that, and I've gotten largely what I wanted out of the endgame. I'm just gonna continue to gear my tanks and all that, and I'm going to now transition into leveling up my crafters and gatherers and get them in a prime position so I can springboard into stuff like cosmic exploration. I don't have much of a desire to level up my DPS and my healers because I've really fallen in love with tanking, and honestly, I just don't have a desire to play anything but a tank right now. So I'm in this position where I can kind of take the game to be rather chill. It's this give and take that Final Fantasy XIV is known for, to where you can go in, do as much as you want, experience all that you want, but then you'll come to a point where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm good. And then you're just waiting for the new content to come down the line. The game's kind of built on this principle. It's built on this rhythm. It's not gonna force you or try and make you afraid of not playing every day because of some weird grinding requirement. To catch up normally doesn't take too long, so you drop in, do what you want, then drop out. And if you play a variety of games like I do, then this style is really beneficial. But also, if you're in the mind frame where you kind of just want to play a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, like, sure, you technically have a lot of content that I could do, but I'm lacking in the type of content that I really want to sink my teeth and claws into, that being the new Bozja and the stuff that was advertised for the expansion that's not going to come down the line till down the line. Now, this is kind of a short-term problem, right? Because, like a lot of issues that plague MMORPGs, it's never one-dimensional. Because while I could argue that I at least have this feeling that there's not a lot that I want to actively do right now, because of the content offering being very samey, at the same time, that is going to make the patches, when they do come into the game and start being turned online, that's going to make those patches way more exciting when they do happen. Because we have numerous giant pillars of endgame content that is still to come. So, instead of being in this position I was kind of in with Endwalker, where I absolutely loved 0.0 with the story and all that, absolutely adored it. I don't know if it's possible to like Endwalker more than I did. But funnily enough, when it came to the patch cadence, there wasn't much that was offered that really wetted my whistle, that tantalized my palate and all that. I really enjoyed the main story, and I enjoyed Pandemonium in the raids. I liked that, but it kind of meant and amounted to when a patch came out, I would play for a couple of days, and then I would largely be done. This is in stark contrast to what I tackled when it came to Shadowbringers content, because I really resonated with Bozja and Ishgard Restoration. So I not only had MSQ that I really liked, I not only had the raids that I really liked, I also had, like, mid-core systems that really allowed me to sink my time and my teeth into and really enjoy the game, and to be able to spend a lot of time in the game if I so chose to. Now, in all likelihood, I'm going to have that feeling again when it comes to Dawntrail. I want to give Variant Dungeons another shout. I want to really try this time when it comes to deep dungeons and all that. So the patches look really incentivizing to me, because there's a lot that I want to do and play when it comes to what should come in each patch. And you combine that with the fact that I actually really enjoy the state of tanking right now. Like, absolutely, it has some homogenization issues, but when it comes to things like Paladin or Gunbreaker, and even Warrior from time to time, I really enjoy playing those jobs. Particularly Paladin, because it kind of rectifies the homogenization issue that I run into with the other tanks, because Paladin brings to the table certain tools that I've talked about before that I really enjoy, that I really like having, that makes me feel like a Paladin, makes me feel like a badass for playing Paladin. And I love the fight design on the whole when it comes to Dawntrail, so something like another Bozja really gets me going. It really makes me excited for what could be on offer there, you know? I think on the whole, I think more people are pessimistic about the state of Final Fantasy XIV than ever really before outside of 1.0. Maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but I think especially if you're in tune with a lot of community perception, I think it's fair to say there's quite a few people that are unsatisfied about the state of the game. And I also think there's quite a few people that take that extra yard and say that the game is just irredeemably bad, yada yada yada. I don't subscribe to that overly pessimistic mind frame when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV. I think the game definitely has problems and faults, mainly when it concerns the main story with Dawntrail, but I think on the whole, I'm really optimistic about the state of the game. And I talked about this on Twitter a little bit, because, like, there hasn't been an expansion of Final Fantasy XIV, and I joined in Stormblood. There hasn't been a moment in Final Fantasy XIV where I have been as disappointed by something, like the MSQ for Dawntrail, but in equal measure, optimistic about the future of the game, and mainly the main story, because there's so many things they can do and go, really extrapolate and expand on in the future that I think are really interesting. But also the content coming down the line for Dawntrail is posed to be really cool. So it's this awkward feeling where I don't think there's any real solution to this problem other than just make more content, to where I can understand this content lull the game has right now, and I think it is a bit of a con for me that expansions are hyped up so much with all this extra content, like new Bozja, like Cosmic Exploration, Deep Dungeon, Variant Dungeons, and stuff like that, and not to be there at launch for the expansion in some capacity. I can understand why other people get upset about this, and I can understand why I get a little bit disappointed when I get really excited for all this content, and then I'm pretty much have to remind myself, oh yeah, I gotta wait for 8 months to a year, if not more, for all of this to really come online. Beastmaster, we're not expecting that thing for a long time, late in the Dawntrail's life cycle. And like I said at the top of the video, this is not surprising if you are familiar with Final Fantasy XIV, you are familiar with how they do things, but I don't think just being familiar with something necessarily puts that thing in a position where you can't critique it. But like at the same time, like I said before, because we don't have it yet, it means when it does come online in the patches, for each patch, I'll have a lot to look forward to. And that's also a good feeling. So it's one of those difficult questions, those difficult problems to find a complete answer for that addresses every concern that I just don't think it exists. So now that I've capped all my tanks, what's my goals? What am I trying to achieve until we get to, say, 7.1 and beyond? For right now, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to do right now is acquire all of the relics that I haven't managed to get yet that I really want. Namely, when it comes to Paladin, I just got the Lux relics from Heavensward, and they look awesome. Yeah, I love that set. I want to go back to get Excalibur from A Realm Reborn. I need to eventually do Eureka. I need to deep dive that because I've never really done it before. I'm actually not that big on the Bozja weapons on the whole, so I don't have much motivation to go back there again, especially after putting as many hours as I have into Bozja. I also need to finish out the Mandible weapons though, because I do think those look really cool. And I'm most of the way there when it comes to Paladin. I just need to grind some more Poetics and then do the final bit of the Mandible Mandeville's storyline in Endwalker, and I'll have that one wrapped up. I need to level up my gatherers and my crafters. I gotta also remember how to play miner, you know? I gotta remember how to actually play these things, because I barely touched them in Endwalker, and swapping to these jobs, I realized, oh wait, I haven't even done the job quest for all of these yet, and half my buttons are no longer in the game, I guess, so I gotta retool my entire hotbar. But Cosmic Exploration looks really cool and interesting, and just, well, I kind of already said it, cool, that I really want to deep dive into these things. So, in a way, I guess, you know, the game is giving me plenty and ample time to put myself in a position so that when all this content I'm really interested in does come into the game, I can just deep dive into it. Again, we go back to that point where blessings in disguises, you know? If all this content came out at point O, was there from day one, it could be really overwhelming. And you may feel rushed to go through the MSQ and to try and deep dive into all of this content all at once, but now I can just take my time with it, and I think that does have its own advantages, and it's going to make the patch cadence look way more fun and exciting on a patch-by-patch basis than it would be just to say, hey, we got another version of this thing, whereas now it'll be like, hey, here's an entire new piece of mid-core content that can easily stretch to hardcore. Have at it. Like, cool. Topics like this can never really just be received as binary. Just, this is bad, this is good, and that's that. There's no discussion, there's no nuance and stuff like that. And a lot of online discourse and conversation, especially when it concerns MMORPGs, we don't need to, like, kid ourselves in this regard, can often devolve to, oh, this is bad and you're bad for supporting it, or this is good and you're bad for not liking it. It's nuance and shades of gray. It's give and take. There's pros and cons. I know we're expecting a lot of info for Final Fantasy XIV in the coming weeks. Like, we still need that live stream where they pretty much go over the schedule of the patches for Dawntrail. We still need to have that one. We need to have the live streams for 7.1. And all the while, I need to get down to business and actually level up these, like, hand and land jobs, because I'm so behind, it's insane. I guess what I need to say at the end of this all is that I need to get on this grind set. Get it? Because I need to run instances over and over and over again for the Realm Reborn relics. Okay, mainly just a Paladin one. I also need to be the second coming of, you know, Godbud Mandeville and get all my professions up. So, hey, I think we've mulled over Final Fantasy XIV enough for one day. With that, I'll call the video there for the day. Let me know what you plan to do in the coming weeks of Final Fantasy XIV. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you done? Are you just getting started? Love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions, to hear your stories and your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.